The COVID-19 pandemic has left a trail of destruction in its wake. Lives as well as livelihoods have been lost, leaving many feeling anxious. The Department of Higher Education has revealed that more than 65% of students who participated in a study reported mild to severe psychological distress during the pandemic. Minister Blade Nzimande released the findings. But for more on this, let's hear from a student. I'm joined by Lubabalo Ndzoyiya, South African Union of Students National Organiser. Very good afternoon to you. So good to have you with us. How much of an impact did COVID-19 actually have on the students? We are seeing the reports that are coming by, but from people who've actually been living it and experiencing day to day the challenges that you've been going through, walk us through that.
Okay. Good afternoon, Thami, and good afternoon to your viewers. Indeed, we must confirm that students are suffering under the COVID-19 regulations with facing their academic challenges. In the past years, look, comparing to now, there have been high number of students committing suicide. There have been countless numbers of students who have committed suicide attempts, meaning that students are actually suffering on the ground. And also there's been a tendency from institutions of not being lenient to students, understanding that students are still adapting to this new form of learning. Particularly first years, they are suffering the most because they come from high school. When they are about to change their learning, the first in learning the interactive is this online learning. Now it becomes a problem to students. Students are facing academic pressure. Students are facing pressure from their lecturers who are not flexible in terms of understanding that this is new to them. So students are very suffering, and there's not enough institutions to support them in terms of dealing with their mental illnesses.
So talk to us about the way that you can be supported as students. What is it that you need that you're not getting?
Well, we recommended this as the union before. We said that institutions must consider the hybrid learning that includes both e-learning and mass-to-mass form of learning, because there are students that find it difficult to work under the conditions of online learning. For an example, students who live in rural areas, regardless of the data that is given to them, they still find it difficult to access network because of network coverage in the areas where they stay. There are some students who stay in homes where conditions are not really conducive for them to study. Some stay with the violent families. Some stay in conducive and not conducive houses for them to conduct academic learning. So with such institutions, to support students, they must, one, open for hybrid learning that includes both online and mass-to-mass learning. Two, they must allow institutions that are going to assist in mental health and mental illnesses issues that are faced by students, counseling and other form of institutions that can be used to assist students in terms of dealing with their academic pressure. Now, institutions, what they're doing, they want to maximize their profit in terms of, one, accommodation, making sure that there's no student on campus, all students are at home. Two, they are sending limited data to students such that students can't do their work. You find in most institutions, they give more data at night than they give more data during the day, which is a problem to students. And three, some students will want to consult with their lecturers, but lecturers refuse to interact with students because of the COVID regulations. They now say, no, it's fine, we're going to interact with online, which then gives challenges to students. So there are quite a number of issues that we have raised with the department and institutions in making sure that we support students in this challenge they are facing.
And is there a sense, Lubabalo, that you are actually being heard here? Because a lot of your grievances are very practical ones. Issues of being able to communicate with the institutions, issues of having no data bundles in order to study and also to make that type of communication. Is that being adhered to? Is that being sorted out for you?
Well, to be honest, we can say that that is not being dealt with the speed that we want it to be dealt with. For an example, the department now with NSFAS just issued laptops. They are in the process now of giving out those laptops to students. Now, we are already approaching the second semester. Students who have suffered in the first semester, come next year, they are going to be excluded by NSFAS. They are going to be excluded from the institutions because they have not performed academically. Those students will be facing challenges. They will add on the problems that we already have with NSFAS. Two, institutions of higher learning, they do sometimes send data, but they don't want to own up when we say that they must have a hybrid learning that includes both mass-to-mass and online learning. Institutions are actually using this process now to butcher student leadership. We've seen in many institutions, if you go to CUT now, some leaders there are not allowed to enter campus because they are being interdicted by the university. Universities are using this process because they know that student leaders find it difficult to mobilize because of the conditions. They are using this process to butcher student leaders. Now, it shows that there's no intention to solve these problems from institutions. And we've been raising these problems with the department. We're happy that now Minister Blaine Nzimande has come to agree that actually majority of students are suffering and they are facing many challenges in the higher learning because of these COVID regulations.
One of the challenges that a lot of students face was not being able to actually even feed themselves, not having money to buy food, not having money to pay for their accommodation, and many found themselves going back home just in order to be able to survive. Have you, as a union, kept in touch with those students? How are their studies faring? What is their fate going to be?
Well, through our SRCs, we do interact with those students because SRCs, from time to time, they do interact with students that are registered on campus and that are part of the academic year. But if you go to almost all institutions in the country, they have not met their registration targets because a high volume of students have not been able to register because of NSFAS challenges. And those students who have been able to register, most of them are finding difficulties in receiving their allowances, and as a result they are unable to buy themselves their own necessary tools, for example food, toiletries and other essentials that they need for them to proceed the academic work. Some students have even given up. The high number of students that are deregistering because they feel demotivated by the conditions and the situation in higher learning. But we have been engaging with the department, we are engaging with SRCs to say that SRCs must reprioritize their budget as well to make sure that they assist those students who are suffering in terms of getting themselves food and essentials. We are saying that because now there are still SRCs with high amounts of budget, they should reprioritize those budgets to fund student-based programs. No budget.
Lubabalo, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave our conversation at that for today. But thank you very much for the insight and painting such a clear picture of the plight of learners during this time.